Dr. Elena Kasparov's breath fogged her helmet as the oxygen warning flashed crimson. 2% remaining. Just enough, if she moved quickly. Status update, Dr. Kasparov. The transmission from orbit crackled through static. Elena ignored it, focusing on the thread-thin carbon nanotube cable that supported her entire weight over the kilometer-deep chasm. The barren landscape of KD 592 stretched above her, its dusty surface barely visible through the narrow fissure she descended. The ground team had gone silent 3 hours ago, when the moonquakes started. Protocol demanded immediate evacuation. Protocol could go to hell. Dr. Kasparov, respond immediately or we'll initiate remote emergency ascent. She tapped her comm. Negative on emergency ascent. I'm detecting energy signatures unlike anything in the xenorchaeological record. If I abort now, we lose everything. Her scanner chirped as she descended the final 50 meters, the readings spiking into ranges that should have been impossible for a moon dead for billions of years. When her boots touched the cavern floor, dust scattered, not randomly, but in geometric patterns that spread outward from her footsteps. What the? The patterns ignited with soft blue bioluminescence, symbols forming concentric circles around her. The light grew, spreading across the cavern walls, revealing intricate engravings hidden beneath millennium-old dust. As Elena approached the far wall, it responded to her presence, the stone parting like liquid to reveal a crystalline terminal. The moment her scanner touched its surface, the terminal blazed to life, projecting symbols directly into her mind. Not images on her retina. Actual neural projections that bypassed her optic nerves. Vast armadas. Extinct civilizations. And somewhere beneath it all, a message that felt aimed directly at her. We have waited so long for our children of Earth. Her hands trembled as she reached for the terminal surface. The crystalline structure hummed beneath her fingers, resonating with something in her DNA. A genetic key turning in an ancient lock. The terminal's light shifted from blue to gold, and a stream of information flooded into her neural implant. Blueprints, coordinates, activation sequences, a hidden fleet, a galactic inheritance left by beings who called themselves the predecessors. An alarm blared in her helmet. 1% oxygen remaining. Then, something new. Proximity warnings as her ship's sensors detected multiple vessels entering orbit. Not Earth vessels. The cavern shuddered as the first orbital strike hit the surface kilometers away. The Galactic Concord had responded faster than she'd imagined possible. They knew. Somehow, they'd always known what lay beneath this barren moon. Elena's neural implant burned as it struggled to process the enormous data transfer. The terminal was downloading everything, faster than human technology was designed to receive. Her vision blurred with symbols she couldn't comprehend. Another strike, closer. Dust rained from the ceiling. Her oxygen warning flashed 0 as the download completed, terminal going dark. In the sudden silence, Elena heard only her own ragged breathing and a simple, terrifying truth. She now carried knowledge that could either save humanity or make them the most hunted species in the galaxy. And she was trapped a kilometer underground with no way out. 6 days after her miraculous escape from KD 592, smuggled out in a mining drone's waste container with 3 cracked ribs and neural implants on the verge of meltdown, Elena watched the diplomatic broadcast from a safe house on Mars. Her hands trembled uncontrollably, an after-effect of the archive download that the doctors couldn't explain. On the holographic display, Admiral Wei Chen stood before the Galactic Concord's High Council in their massive orbital judgment sphere. Even through the sanitized public feed, Elena could see the tension in his shoulders as 13 alien representatives arranged in ascending tiers glared down at humanity's delegation. The human breach of quarantine protocols on KD 592 was not accidental. The primate counselor declared, its 12 limbs undulating in a gesture untranslatable by human body language algorithms. It was the culmination of a species pattern that can no longer be tolerated. The wall behind the council illuminated, displaying a timeline of human history. Major technological breakthroughs, resource discoveries, political resolutions, all highlighted in pulsing red. For 300 years, we have shepherded humanity's development. Each red marker indicates necessary intervention, technological accidents, redirected resources, and occasionally, regrettably, managed conflicts. Admiral Chen's micro-expressions shifted from diplomatic neutrality to barely contained fury. You're claiming responsibility for manipulating human history. We prefer developmental guidance, the insectoid representative chittered. A necessity for all emerging species. Guidance, Chen repeated flatly. Like the Jakarta fusion disaster, the Mars colony plague, those were your guidance. The primate counselor's upper appendages formed the gesture Elena recognized as dismissal. Unfortunate corrections to maintain developmental equilibrium. Your species was never meant to leave Sol system. The Council's declaration echoed through the chamber. Humanity classified as an aberrant experiment that must relinquish all extrasolar colonies within 30 days or face extinction-level correction. Elena's neural implant throbbed as the broadcast ended. Fragmented images from the archive download flashed through her consciousness. Ships beyond human understanding, weapons that bent reality, and something else. A warning about entities that harvested entire galaxies. Her safe-house terminal chimed with an encrypted message. Primitive compared to her implant, but secure. Admiral Chen's coded instructions appeared. Extraction imminent. Trust no one. Concord assassins en route. As if summoned by the warning, Elena's augmented senses detected footsteps in the corridor outside, too light for human stride patterns. Her hand moved instinctively to the cabinet where she'd hidden a standard-issue plasma cutter, but stopped halfway. Something was happening to her mind. Complex combat scenarios unfolded in her consciousness, techniques she'd never learned, weaknesses in Concord combat physiology she couldn't possibly know. When the door disintegrated in a flash of energy, Elena was already moving. Her body flowed through unfamiliar patterns, muscles responding to instructions she wasn't consciously giving. The first assassin, a Tolif operative with crystalline exoskeleton, crumpled as she struck precisely where its nervous system converged. The second attacker fired a neural disruptor. Elena's hand intercepted the beam at an impossible angle, her palm glowing with energy the archive had somehow taught her to manipulate. As 3 more Concord operatives breached the windows, Elena felt the archive knowledge fully integrate with her consciousness. She wasn't just carrying the predecessor's data, she was becoming their instrument. And somewhere across the solar system, Admiral Chen was connecting the final dots between her condition and the Concord's fear, preparing a desperate mission to recover the archive data before the ultimatum expired and humanity faced extinction. The stealth corvette Pandora slipped through the solar storm's electromagnetic wake, its heat signature masked by the coronal mass ejection battering KD 592's atmosphere. In the ship's medical bay, Elena fought another seizure as fragments of archive data cascaded through her consciousness. Neural activity off the charts again, the ship's doctor reported. Whatever's in her implants is rewriting her synaptic pathways. Admiral Chen observed from the doorway, his expression grim. Can she still guide us to the installation? She's our only option, Commander Jackson Hayes interjected, the scared Special Forces operative adjusting his experimental neural augmentation interface. Concord patrols are blanketing the region. Without her connection to the archive, we're flying blind. Elena's seizure subsided, her eyes focusing with unnatural clarity. They've excavated more, she whispered. The structure extends 17 levels beneath the surface. I can. She winced, pressing her temples. I can see the pathways. The archive is calling me. Landing under the storm's cover, Hayes led his 12-person strike team through canyons already mapped in Elena's mind. Concord excavation equipment littered the approach to the fissure she'd escaped through days earlier. Hostiles ahead. Hayes sub-vocalized through their tactical network. Standard Concord security pattern. Elena, are you sure there's another entrance? Elena didn't respond verbally. Instead, her hand pressed against seemingly solid rock, triggering hidden mechanisms that revealed a narrow passage illuminated by the same bioluminescence she'd encountered before. "How did you?" Hayes began. "I didn't," Elena interrupted. "The archive did." They descended through ancient corridors that rearranged themselves as they passed, leading them deeper while avoiding Concord security suites above. Each step brought Elena closer to the source calling to her, the knowledge in her implants resonating with the structure around them. The central chamber dwarfed the excavated sections above, a vast spherical space with walls covered in crystalline matrices. As Elena entered, the entire chamber illuminated, and a figure coalesced from light particles in the center. Humanoid but clearly not human, its proportions subtly wrong in ways that triggered instinctive unease. "Guardian protocol activated," it announced in a voice that bypassed their ears, speaking directly into their minds. "Successor candidate acknowledge." Above them, the first tremors of orbital bombardment shook dust from ancient surfaces. "They're trying to destroy it," Chen realized. "Whatever you're going to do, Elena, do it now." As Hayes deployed his team to defensive positions in the access tunnels, Elena approached the Guardian, her movements mirroring its alien posture. "Show me," she commanded, her voice overlaid with harmonics she couldn't consciously produce. The chamber transformed into a galactic panorama. Stars, worlds, and civilizations blooming and withering in accelerated time. The Guardian's mental voice resonated through their consciousness. "The predecessors did not simply go extinct. We sacrificed ourselves fighting an entity we called the Void, a sentient cosmic cancer that devours civilizations." Images flooded their minds. Thousands of species uplifted and guided by the predecessors, each falling to the expanding darkness that consumed not just matter, but the fabric of reality itself. Humanity was our final and most promising project. The Guardian continued as the chamber shuddered under another bombardment. Engineered with unique neural plasticity and emotional resilience, the only species capable of fully interfacing with our technology. Hayes' voice crackled through the comm. "Concord forces breaching the upper levels. We're engaged." Elena's connection to the archive deepened, revealing coordinates to a dimensional pocket space where the predecessor fleet waited, ships of incomprehensible power, designed to combat the Void's return. As she initiated the download process, the chamber trembled violently. A frantic transmission cut through their comms. Hayes, already wounded, had captured a Concord communication array. "They've known." His voice spat through static and weapons fire. "The Concord has tracked the Void's approach for centuries. They've been suppressing us as sacrificial distractions while they build arcs to another galaxy." The transmission broadcast galaxy-wide before ending in static. Elena completed the download as the ceiling began to collapse, the activation protocols burning into her neural pathways. Chen dragged her toward the escape passage, but Elena's last glimpse showed Hayes and his team standing their ground against overwhelming forces, buying her escape with their lives. She carried not just humanity's inheritance now, but the truth about their galactic protectors, and the knowledge that the ancient enemy that had necessitated such desperate. The medical bay of Earth's newest dreadnought, the EDS Defiant, was reconfigured into a makeshift neurology lab. Elena lay on the examination table, her neural patterns displayed across holographic monitors, as technicians struggled to understand what was happening to her brain. "The seizures are getting worse," Dr. Nakamura reported, his fingers tracing the anomalous patterns. "Her frontal and temporal lobes show activity I've never seen in a human subject." Admiral Chen, now branded a traitor by leaders seeking appeasement with the Concord, studied the readings. "Is she conscious?" "Conscious isn't quite the right word," Nakamura replied. "Her brain is processing information at rates beyond our equipment's ability to measure. It's as if she's become something more than human," Chen finished. The ship shuddered as it executed another FTL jump, pushing deeper into the galactic core's radiation zone, where Concord vessels rarely ventured. The skeleton crew, all volunteers who'd followed Chen despite court-martial threats, worked frantically to maintain systems never designed to operate in such extreme conditions. Alina's eyes snapped open, glowing with symbols that scrolled across her irises. "We're close," she whispered, her voice harmonizing with frequencies that made the medical equipment malfunction. "I can feel the dimensional fold." Chen helped her to the bridge where Lieutenant Commander Reyes, the navigation officer, gestured at the view screen. "Nothing out there, sir. Just empty space and radiation that's slowly cooking our shields." "It's there," Alina insisted, approaching the navigation console. Her fingers moved across the interface with inhuman precision, inputting coordinates that shouldn't have existed in normal space-time. "You can't see it because it exists partially outside our dimension." Warning klaxons blared as sensors detected multiple ships entering the system. "Concord Pursuit Fleet," Reyes announced. "Heavy destroyers, at least 8. They'll be in weapons range in 6 minutes." Chen turned to Alina. "Now would be a good time for that hidden fleet to make an appearance." Alina stepped to the communications array, interfacing directly with the ship's systems. Her eyes closed as the archived knowledge fully integrated with her consciousness. When she spoke, it was with the harmonic overtones of the Guardian's voice. "Activation sequence commencing. Recognition protocols established. Standby for dimensional reintegration." She broadcast a signal unlike anything human technology could generate, a quantum signature that penetrated subspace barriers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, reality itself fractured. The space before them peeled back like breaking glass, revealing not ships, but an entire artificial Dyson swarm housing thousands of vessels. Angular, crystalline warships that absorbed rather than reflected light. Some dwarfed their dreadnought, while others ranged from corvette size to structures larger than small moons. "My God," Chen breathed. As the predecessor fleet awakened, holographic interfaces sprouted from the Defiance bulkheads, adapting to human neural patterns. The crew watched in awe as dormant weapon systems came online, systems capable of manipulating gravity, time, and the fundamental forces of reality. The Concord Pursuit Fleet dropped out of FTL, weapons charge, only to receive emergency recall orders. Their long-range sensors had detected something massive approaching from beyond the galactic rim. On the command deck, Alina's consciousness expanded through the predecessor flagship systems. A holographic projection materialized, showing the true scale of what approached. Not an invasion force, but an entire dark galaxy moving through the void between stars. "Too late," she whispered, her voice both her own and not. "The void has returned." As humanity's untested armada powered up around them, Alina turned to Chen, her eyes reflecting the darkness between galaxies. "Admiral, we have 2 weeks before it reaches populated space. But first," her expression hardened with newfound purpose, "we need to show Earth what its protectors have been hiding." Earth's orbital defense platforms targeted their own fleet when the predecessor Armada emerged in Sol system, thousands of kilometers of alien metal eclipsing the sun as humanity faced its inheritance. The UN Security Council emergency session devolved into chaos, broadcast feeds showing representatives physically fighting as factions formed between those demanding immediate surrender to the Concord and those rallying behind Admiral Chen's transmission. "This is no invasion." Alina's message echoed across every communication channel on Earth. "This is salvation. The predecessors built these ships for us. For this moment." The Defiant docked with the Lunar Defense Station, where Chen faced a hastily assembled tribunal of Earth's military leadership. "You've brought an alien fleet into our home system without authorization," General Kimura accused. "That's treason, Admiral." "I've brought the only weapon capable of saving our species," Chen countered, projecting the Void's approach vector onto the briefing room's holodeck. "While you were negotiating our surrender, I found our inheritance." Military officers across 3 continents spontaneously defected to Chen's command as Alina walked the crystalline corridors of the predecessor flagship. Walls reshaped themselves at her approach, environments reconfiguring to accommodate human physiology. She discovered sealed biomes preserving predecessor genetic material, glimpses of the beings who had engineered humanity's potential millennia ago. When she accessed the command nexus, a holographic star map revealed the horrifying truth. The void wasn't simply an invading force, but a cosmic parasite that hollowed out galaxies from within, converting all matter into self-replicating darkness. A diplomatic shuttle approached the flagship, bearing the insignia of the Galactic Concord. Elena sensed no hostile intent through the ship's sensors, only desperation. The reptilian diplomat Vrexel emerged, scales dulled with stress. "You don't understand what you've done," he said without preamble. "The archive wasn't meant to be found so soon. Before your masters could finish their escape plan." Elena countered, the archive's knowledge providing context for his arrival. Vrexel's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. "You know, about Protocol Lifeboat. The Concord High Council abandoning billions while the elite castes evacuate to constructed hyperspatial arcs." "Yes." Elena projected footage from the archive onto the chamber walls, showing the void's true nature. Not invasion fleets but black crystalline spores that corrupted living tissue, transforming victims into hive mind extensions that built convergent engines. "We've detected incursion at Alpha Centauri," Chen reported as he joined them. "Their colonial defense grid went silent 16 hours ago." Vrexel collapsed into a chair designed for human anatomy, his reptilian frame awkward but his despair recognizable across species barriers. "Then it's begun." Elena's expanded consciousness calculated the void's acceleration through real space. "We have less than 2 weeks before galactic critical mass." On the holographic display, Chen highlighted the Concord evacuation routes, paths that sacrificed scores of populated systems as distractions. "Humanity faces a choice," Chen told Vrexel, his voice hardening. "Use this fleet for righteous vengeance against those who betrayed us, or rally even our oppressors against extinction." Elena's hand hovered over the command interface as the decision crystallized. The archive had chosen humans for a reason. Their capacity to overcome base instincts for survival, to cooperate even with enemies when necessary. "We stand with life," she declared, initiating fleet-wide communication protocols, even with those who never stood with us. As the flagship's engines engaged, projecting a dimensional corridor toward Alpha Centauri, Elena sensed the first tendrils of the void's consciousness probing the edges of human space, ancient, patient, and utterly alien in its hunger. Humanity's inherited Armada would face its first test not in vengeance, but in protection of the very species that had sought to contain them. The Battle of the Orion Spur began with catastrophic losses. Predecessor warships, designed for pilots with neural architectures, different from modern humans, responded sluggishly to their crew's commands. Admiral Chen, neural-linked to the command ship through interfaces that burned his temporal lobe with each connection, coordinated a desperate defense as the void deployed weapons beyond comprehension. Negative mass projectiles incoming. Lieutenant Santos called from the sensor station, her voice breaking as the impossible readings registered. They're accelerating after impact with our barriers." Chen watched as 3 predecessor cruisers disintegrated, their crystalline structures inverted by weapons that defied physics. "Fall back to secondary positions. Maintain distance from the convergent engines." Across the battlefield, entropic field generators aged matter to dust, and dimensional rifts swallowed entire battle groups. Human crews struggled with interfaces designed for beings who had evolved along different cognitive pathways. Despite controlling the most advanced fleet in galactic history, humanity faced imminent defeat. Lieutenant Aria Rodriguez, a shuttle pilot with an unremarkable service record, received emergency orders to evacuate civilians from the mining colony on Proxima Centauri IV, directly in the void's path. As her shuttle approached the colony's coordinates, sensors showed convergent spores already infiltrating the atmosphere. "This is Artemis Shuttle 7, she broadcast. Colony, respond." Static answered as her neural link to the shuttle systems flashed warning after warning. The colony was already lost. Protocol dictated immediate withdrawal. But Area could see them through the viewports, hundreds of colonists running toward the landing pads, pursued by shambling figures whose flesh had begun crystallizing into black, angular structures. Something broke inside her, rage, desperation, and determined defiance fusing into a singular emotion that surged through her neural link. The shuttle systems responded not just to her commands, but to her emotional state. Shields that should have failed under the spore contamination suddenly tripled in strength. Targeting systems that struggled to lock onto the half-transformed pursuers snapped into focus with surgical precision. "Come on," she screamed, both to the fleeing colonists and to the ship itself, her determination extending the shuttle's sensor range beyond theoretical limits as she identified safe extraction points through the chaos. As the last survivors boarded, a massive void structure emerged from the colony center, a conversion node that targeted her ship with a reality distortion beam. Area's anger focused the shuttle's meager weapons, not just firing but somehow resonating with her emotional intensity to penetrate the node's defenses. Elena, monitoring combat telemetry from the flagship, recognized the pattern immediately. "The emotional resonance amplification is online," she told Chen, her voice carrying the archive's harmonics. "The predecessors engineered us not just for intelligence, but for emotional depth they themselves lacked, the capacity to feel deeply enough to fully power their technology." Across the battlefront, crews that had been struggling with logical command structures began forming emotional bonds with their vessels. Ships responded to fear by generating stronger shields, to anger by focusing weapon systems, to determination by enhancing propulsion capabilities. The tide turned at the Procyon defensive line when Area's battle group, now commanding a hastily assembled squadron of converted mining vessels upgraded with predecessor technology, faced overwhelming void forces. Outnumbered 20-1, her pilots refused to retreat despite certain death, their collective determination triggering dormant weapon systems that emitted quantum-entangled counter-resonance fields, shattering void-corrupted matter. The victory, broadcast across all channels, inspired remaining Concord factions to approach the human fleet. In a tense meeting aboard the flagship, Vrexil accompanied representatives from 7 species who had previously dismissed humans as primitives. "We were wrong about your kind," the crystalline Talleth ambassador admitted, its faceted body refracting light in patterns that conveyed humility. "Our logic-based approach to the predecessor technology achieved only partial activation. Your species' emotional resonance unlocks capabilities we never imagined possible." Admiral Chen, neural scarring now visible across his face from repeated fleet mind connections, regarded the former enemies with exhausted wariness. "And now you want our help." "We need each other," Vrexil corrected. "The void consumes logic and predictability. Your species' inherent chaos. Your emotional variability, your irrational decisions, these are weapons it cannot counter." Elena stepped forward, the Guardian's presence now visible as a luminous overlay to her human form. "Then let us teach you how to feel," she offered, extending interfaces that would connect the alien delegates to the human crew's emotional centers. The universe needed what only humans could provide: the irrational, inexplicable willingness to fight even when all hope seemed lost. With the void consuming 3-star systems daily, Elena, her consciousness now split between human and Guardian, convened an unprecedented summit aboard the predecessor flagship. The cavernous chamber, originally designed for beings long extinct, reshaped itself to accommodate 17 distinct species' physiological needs. Species that had warred for millennia sat alongside humans who barely understood the technology surrounding them. The insectoid Vrankar representatives chittered nervously, their hive mind biology giving them unique insight into the void's communication patterns. The crystalline Talleth delegation interfaced directly with the ship's systems, their silicon-based technology meshing perfectly with predecessor architecture. "The void adapts to each defensive strategy within hours," Admiral Chen explained, neural scarring now spreading down his neck from repeated fleet-mind connections. We need integration, not just alliance. As the species debated, Alina suddenly collapsed mid-sentence, her neural implants overloading with information. In the medical bay, quantum physicians struggled to stabilize her fluctuating consciousness as it oscillated between human and guardian states. Within the liminal space of her mind, Alina experienced the predecessor's final days, not merely fighting the void but coming to understand it. The revelation hit her like a physical force. The void wasn't destroying the galaxy. It was converting it into a thought form immune to the chaos of biological existence. It's not consuming us, she gasped as she regained consciousness. It's perfecting existence by its own definition, removing chaos, unpredictability, emotion. It fears what it cannot predict. The predecessor weapons weren't designed just to destroy, but to infuse targets with chaotic quantum patterns disrupting the void's computational perfection. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't the fleet at all. It was their inherent unpredictability, their capacity for illogical inspiration and creative leaps. Alina returned to the summit transformed. The Vrankar will engineer biological countermeasures, she ordered, her voice layered with harmonics. The Talleth will enhance our communication systems. The Concord will provide strategic data from their centuries of observation. Delegation after delegation pledged resources, each species contributing their evolutionary specialties to the coalition. The Morrigan, atmospheric beings from gas giants, offered predictive wind pattern algorithms that could track void spore dispersion. The aquatic Delphine provided sonar technologies that detected dimensional thinning before breaches occurred. When Chen announced his decision to place alien representatives in command positions throughout the fleet, human officers protested. These beings suppressed us for centuries. Commander Rivera objected. And now you want them controlling our inheritance. Chen silenced the dissent with a simple gesture toward the view screen, where the void's advance consumed another system. The ships were never meant to be controlled, he explained. The predecessors designed their technology to achieve maximum power through synthesis of diverse consciousness. He projected Alina's neural analysis onto the briefing room's holodeck. This is why they chose humans as inheritors. Not to dominate, but to connect. Our brains are uniquely adapted to integrate different cognitive frameworks, to find patterns in chaos and meaning in contradiction. As coalition forces integrated systems for the final confrontation, Alina worked with scientists from all 17 species, her expanded consciousness serving as the bridge between incompatible biological and technological paradigms. In engineering bays across the fleet, human crews welcomed alien specialists aboard ships designed to accommodate only one form of life. Adaptation happened in both directions. Humans learning to process information through chemical gradients and quantum states, aliens embracing emotional reasoning that defied their evolutionary programming. 2 days before the planned counteroffensive, Alina summoned the coalition leadership. The void has altered course, she announced, the star map behind her shifting to show a new threat vector. It's targeting the galactic core directly. Strategic simulations revealed the void's plan: to corrupt this supermassive black hole into a dimensional gateway that would trigger galaxy-wide extinction. The coalition now faced not just a battle but a race against cosmic annihilation. As the integrated fleet prepared to make its stand, Alina sensed something remarkable. The ships themselves were evolving, responding to the unprecedented diversity of consciousness flowing through their systems. In the unity of different minds approaching the same problem through radically different cognitive frameworks, the fleet was achieving capabilities beyond what any single species could unlock alone. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't dominance but synthesis, exactly what the predecessors had seen in them millennia ago. The final battle unfolded at the galactic core, where the supermassive black hole Sagittarius A** churned in ancient darkness. The coalition fleet, 17 species united under humanity's emotional guidance, faced the concentrated essence of the void. The battlefield defied conventional physics. Predecessor ships phased between dimensions, weapons folded space to strike from impossible angles, and shields converted enemy fire into creative energy. The Void's main consciousness, a vast crystalline structure of antimatter and dark energy, extended tendrils across multiple dimensional planes, calculating countermeasures faster than organic minds could respond. From the flagship's command nexus, Alina directed the fleet mind. Her consciousness expanded beyond human limits, yet anchored by her humanity. Admiral Chen, neural scaring now covering half his body, coordinated tactical operations through interfaces that were slowly consuming his biological form. "The Void is adapting too quickly," he reported, his voice distorted by fleet mind harmonics. "It's processing our attack patterns and developing countermeasures before we can execute them." The casualty reports streamed in, entire battle groups consumed as the Void exploited predictable attack formations. Even with emotional resonance amplifying the predecessor technology, the Coalition was losing ground. Alina, her perception now spanning multiple dimensions simultaneously, detected a new threat. The Void had opened a direct wormhole to Earth, bypassing all defensive lines. "It's targeting our homeworld," she realized. A spite move to eliminate the species that dared resist. With communications jammed and no way to warn Earth's defenses, Admiral Chen made the choice that defined humanity's legacy. His consciousness, already more machine than flesh, calculated the only viable option. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," he broadcast to the Coalition fleet. "Sometimes the most human choice is sacrifice." He directed his command ship on a quantum state collision course with the wormhole's focal point. Alina reached for him, both physically and through the fleet mind, but he severed the connection to prevent her from stopping him. "You're the bridge they need," were his final words before cutting transmission. "I'm just a soldier." The command ship accelerated beyond physical limitations, its human crew's collective determination amplifying its drives to impossible velocities. When it impacted the wormhole's dimensional aperture, the resulting collapse created a cascade reaction through the Void's network, temporarily severing its hive mind connections. In that moment of disorientation, Alina activated the fleet's final protocol. Not a weapon, but a vast quantum consciousness infusion wave. It flooded Void-corrupted systems not with destruction but with chaotic emotional imprints. Love, grief, joy, wonder, the full spectrum of sentient experience that defied logical processing. The Void entity, unable to assimilate these fundamentally organic experiences, fragmented into isolated pockets that Coalition forces systematically contained. Without its unified computational perfection, each fragment became vulnerable to targeted emotional resonance attacks. The battle lasted 26 hours. When it ended, the Coalition had lost nearly 40% of its ships and crews, but the galaxy remained intact. In the aftermath, as grieving species assessed their losses and began rebuilding, Alina discovered a sealed predecessor module in the flagship's core, untouched even by her expanded consciousness until this moment. When she connected to it, the module revealed the predecessor's ultimate legacy, not just weapons but a roadmap for cooperative evolution, technologies of creation rather than destruction. The true purpose of the archive wasn't to create human warriors, but to forge connections between different minds. The predecessors had recognized in early humans not just intelligence or aggression, but empathy, the ability to understand experiences unlike their own. 6 months later, the newly formed Galactic Assembly gathered on a reconstructed Earth. Its chamber, built around a quantum memorial where Admiral Chen's neural pattern had been preserved, hosted representatives from once-warring species working together on technologies once thought impossible. As Alina, now Assembly Chancellor, initiated the decommissioning of the war fleet into exploration vessels with multicultural crews, her expanded consciousness detected a familiar pattern in the quantum substrate. Chen's neural signature, preserved in the dimensional matrix, evolving into something beyond human yet carrying humanity's best qualities. The coordinates that appeared in her private terminal led to an uncharted system far from established routes. There, the first multicultural exploration vessel discovered a planet showing signs of early sentient evolution, beings who looked up at the stars with wonder and fear. As Elena stood on the observation deck, watching the young civilization through long-range sensors, the circle completed itself. Humanity, once the inheritors, would now become the guardians the predecessors had always believed they could be, not through dominance, but through connection. They're going to need guides, she told the assembled crew of 17 species. Teachers who understand the value of diversity, not uniformity. The ships that had saved the galaxy from annihilation now began their true mission, spreading not conquest, but cooperation throughout the stars.